Hi, my name is Steven Tingus, your host for Ideagen Hollywood. I'm so proud of today's episode with some really amazing women that have been in the industry as fighters, champions, to ensure that everybody underrepresented in the entertainment industry is given a chance, and whose experiences are looked at so that everybody can learn that we're more similar than we are different. Today's guests are Christina Cannarella, the founder, CEO of Mother Road Studios. And our other guest is just a groundbreaker in Hollywood, way before Christina and I, Miss Fern Field. Fern has been a very close advisor, confidant, and friend to our friend, Norman Lear, a groundbreaker in and of himself for other underrepresented communities here in Hollywood. So with that, I'd like to welcome Fern and Christina, my two Italianos that are very close to my heart as a Greek. So ladies, thank you so much for being with us today to end the year off with some thought-provoking conversation and hope. Hope for a better tomorrow, not only in our industry, but for society. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a tall order.
I was going to say, thank you again for having us. We're so excited to be here and so grateful to be able to have this very important conversation with you.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful that Fern, you're able to join us as well. So thank you for that. And I mean, both of you really, Stephen and you, Fern, both are trailblazers. We're pioneers of inclusion, the very first people to pave that path. And
Right.
You have to start somewhere. And the work, Fern, that you've done, you opened up doors, you opened up eyes, you opened up hearts and arms to people, to seeing, right? The ability of people labeled with disability. And that's the heart. And you too, Stephen, you, by being in public school, by being the first person to go to Northern California to be fully included in a regular gen ed campus, that opened up eyes to people, made people
more and more. I agree with what you're saying, and more important, because I've been thinking about it, the conversation really has to take a different direction. And one of the things, several of the things, excellence. We have to champion excellence. We have to provide the best education possible. We have to provide equal access. It's not a numbers game. I wrote something for the 4th program about the word different. Different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means unlike something else. And until we don't start accepting people for whatever, not because of the color of the skin, that should not be part of the conversation. And I was also thinking the other day, there's no museum, for instance, for people, for the achievements of people with disabilities, because a lot of the people don't recognize what people can do with disabilities. I mean, when I was involved, there was this guy in the advertisement. He used to, in New York, go into the gutter, hail a cab, and go all over the world in his wheelchair. But he was an exception. But there are many, many abilities that we have to celebrate, that it's not because we're limited. It's just like when I was said, oh my God, somebody in a wheelchair. Now that is not prevalent anymore. And attitudes have changed, but it's education, it's celebration of excellence.
And education is key. We've had these conversations that there is a career exploration in general for our youth in middle and high school is way too limited, right? We're focused on academic excellence, which is important. However, when people graduate high school, if they don't, they can maybe go on to college, but many people don't want to choose that path, or they may want to, but they have no clue of what they want to do, right? So we don't give enough career exploration for young people with and without disabilities. And if you have a disability, then forget it, because how are you ever going to even explore what it is that you want to learn about? So we're, college campuses, you're not included there because you have to have especially if you have a developmental and intellectual disability, because you are on a different track through high school, through K through 12. You don't graduate high school with a diploma. And many, most colleges, campuses, you have to have a diploma in order to get in there. So the community colleges, and that's where I don't want to jump ahead, but that's where we're focusing our attention and our efforts right now is community colleges, because they are, it's state funded, it's taxpayer funded, and they have a wealth of resources. Here in Los Angeles at LA Valley College, they have an incredible cinema department, broadcasting department that we're working with, and we're creating pathways for people with disabilities to go through these programs, take different classes, explore what it is they may be interested in. There's a little bit of a push now for employment for people with disabilities, but how are they supposed to know what they're interested in, what they're good at, if they've never had an opportunity to try something and to learn about it? So it's, the educational aspect is really important, supporting education for our disability community and ensuring that it's accessible, right? It's the accommodations are in place for them to learn the way that they need to learn. And then we're going to start to get, they'll develop the skills that they need, the vocational skills that they need for employment, within this industry.
Yes. So Fern, I wanted to ask you, I was born in 1963, right before we lost President Kennedy. And I've been, involved in all of these groundbreaking pieces of legislation, from, the Rehab Act all the way through the ADA. So I'm a very, very well trained political with a disability, for better words. And, I like to push the envelope in whatever I do. And what I found here in Hollywood is that within the disability community, there are some great champions, like yourself, Christina, Jerry Jewell, Norman Lear, and other people that have sadly passed. But do you feel, as someone that's also in the media, do you feel that, and I'm going to open up a can of worms, but I love to do it because, I was raised being labeled handicapped, and our community says, oh, no, because of the silent film reference to a man, imitating someone with a handicap seeking money, and he wasn't handicapped, of course. But then we moved to the ADA when I was in grad school. And I'm wondering, what do you feel? Because we're from the same generation. Is it, what do you feel? Are these labels helping us or hurting us? And whatever happened about someone being self-empowered and referring to themselves that in a way that makes them feel more empowered. I know I'm gonna open a lot of different views on this, but what do you feel? Are we really effectively using these labels, or are they actually hurting us?
Well, I personally don't like labels. I don't, I just don't. I don't use them. You know, I've never hired a woman director because she was a woman. I hired because she was the right person to do the job.
Right.
And when, you know, so it's a combination of needing to educate. I thought it was ludicrous when handicapped went out of use. I never knew the story about the hat and the cap. It was just, it was a word. I don't like labels or anything. I think people need to be accepted for what they are.
Yeah. I agree.
And, I'm Italian, I'm an immigrant, I'm Jewish. I've been lucky. I never experienced any kind of anti-Semitism or anything, but friends of mine have. I believe in judging people for who they are, what their goals are, what they bring, what they contribute. And I think that's the way we should go. At the same time, I think we need to address the inherent, the baggage that we bring with us through life and say, hey, this is going on. You got to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. I mean, labels create silos.
Right.
Silos create disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when we are disconnected, we don't accomplish what we need to accomplish. And the labels, even within our disability community, if you have if you're labeled with a physical disability, many people don't want to be associated with people with a developmental or intellectual disability.
Yeah, some of
I
us.
I understand. I mean, the other thing is there's so many limited opportunities, and I've really thought about this and had conversations with many people about this. And so when there are so few opportunities, people want to try, they want to grab that opportunity because that's the only thing that they have, that's the only chance they may have at that.
Right.
And so the focus is really focused more on the me and not on the we. And that's why I believe, in my opinion, why we haven't made as much progress as we could have, because the different silos. And even with under the umbrella of a disability, of a developmental disability or intellectual disability, you have autism, you have Down syndrome, you have, there's so many labels. And then we label somebody, they're at a 5-year-old level. Well, because they don't speak and because they can't express what they know. Well, how do we know what's on the inside if we don't can't unlock what is there, right? And it's not, we look at this as people, they have to kind of get to where we're at our level. My son Johnny doesn't speak with words. He can understand what is being said. And most people would think he can't because he can't speak. But if we put a label on him, and on the flip side, you need labels in order to get the support that you need to get to where you need. So, but if the labels can be very constricting and cut off the work that we need to do.
Right.
And, you know, in the intellectual and developmental disability community, there's the word now that a lot of people are using is neurodiverse.
Yes.
And you know, and I have mixed feelings about just different labels, because I do understand why it's important, because I don't like the disability. Dis means there's something lacking.
Yeah.
And it isn't. It's different, right? It's a different ability. They're just different in how our society looks at as normal. But what is that even, right? What does normal even mean?
Right.
So, but when you start to use other terms that are unfamiliar to people, then people get very confused. They don't know what you're talking about. They're like, what does neurodiverse mean when I'm trying to explain, you know, disability? So what I've started to do is just use level of support needs, right? We all need support in different ways. If somebody needs support with communication, or somebody is a wheelchair user,
right.
You know, I wear glasses. Like we all have different levels of support needs. And as we get older, those things change as well. And so that's how I've kind of looked at it more. But it's a really important conversation. And I think it's, you know, we have to get.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, Fern, I grew up in a very athletic family, Greek Americans, first generation, and they were very active in golf. Okay, and Christina knows my brother Mike. He used to play golf against Tiger Woods. And I knew Tiger when he was a little 9-year-old, you know. And my mom was very big in junior golf, and handicap was a part of the lexicon of golf. And to me, I was taught the higher your handicap, the harder it was for you to play a decent round of golf, because either you had the skill or you were developing a skill. And so to me, it was always handy capable for me. And then my peers, like Judy Human and the late Ed Roberts, you know, they were big advocates next door to Davis in Berkeley, and started the disability rights, you know, agenda. Now, do I knock them for that? No. God bless you for getting some sort of legislation, bipartisan, I might add, with now the late Bob Dole, who was very close to me. But then you look at disability, and if you're from the 60s and 70s, the dictionary would say unable. And now they're flowering the definition with other, you know, meanings that really take away from the true meaning, which means unable. So how are we to expect business and corporate America to truly understand who we are as individuals when we're labeled a negative term?
Yeah.
Now, I'll be shot after this airs, but my goal, my vision is to let everybody define who they are, so that we understand how people approach their challenges and their needs, instead of labeling them just because this is the way it has to be. No.
One of the things about a different approach which is unusable now because it's not politically correct. It uses the word handicapped and stuff like that. But in our musical number, I love the line that says, we're, all we want is an equal chance to be your grocer.
Yeah.
And I think in those days, the conversation was a little different. It wasn't about labels until the handicap things came up. It was about, give me a chance.
Opportunity.
Give me opportunities.
It was all about equal opportunity.
Yeah.
At that time, the forefront was on the African American community. But then those of us that like to work across communities understood that the way you refer to yourself is the way that you will be accepted.
Yeah.
Okay? Regardless of your challenges and your needs. So for me, as a citizen and a human being, I feel more comfortable saying I have a physical challenge.
Yeah.
We all
have challenges. We all have challenges, right?
Right.
And we have to really focus on what is right with everybody, not what is wrong. And in the disability community, the especially with developmental and intellectual community that I've been part of, the focus is all that is wrong with that person and needing to fix them. And I understand we want to give them the support to help them get to whatever their maximum potential is. But there's so much focus. Imagine what that does to that individual.
Yes.
When all they hear is what's wrong with them, what's wrong with them, what's wrong with them. They need this, they need that, they need this, they need this. Yeah. And it really takes a toll on their self-esteem and their self-worth. And I've seen it over and over again in the work that I do and the with our community and talking to individuals. And it takes, it's really building up their self-esteem and making them and their family members also, our society, again, it doesn't focus on what they can do. It focuses on what they can't do. And we need to shift. And I love what you said, Stephen, about developing a skill, right? It's developing skills, and look at what look at what can be accomplished. You were working in the White House. I'm sure when you were 5 or 6 and you were just starting out, being the first person to go to public school, nobody ever dreamed that would be the case for you, right? I know your parents, the way that you had that support and that love from your family, really guided you and got you, helped support you to where you are. Through
my siblings.
But there's so many people that don't have that.
Right.
And it's a responsibility for all of us in our society to lift people up and help them on their journeys however we can, not just say, okay, do what you need to do. There's a focus on independence. And we need to shift our focus on interdependence. And even with what we all went through with this last, almost 2 years of the pandemic, I think we've really realized how important the connection and relying on one another, how important our interdependence is. It is vitally important for the survival of humanity. And we need to, help people get to developing the skills that they need to do to get to whatever their maximum potential is, and helping them live, happy, meaningful, engaging, productive lives.
Yeah, I wanted to tell Fern something too. So Fern, when I grew up, I couldn't go out and play with my siblings, younger siblings, thank God, and my friends. So I watched TV. I basically watched the soaps, the news shows, and all of that, just like everybody else of the 60s. I remember MAUDE. I remember Different Strokes and All in the Family. I thought All in the Family was a very educative series to watch, no matter who you are. And at that time, I was really interested in entertainment because I wasn't able to go out and play and stuff like that. So not very many people know this, but at the time I used to watch General Hospital, the original, and What Life to Live. And I was like, why don't I have any people in wheelchairs or any other person like me on those shows? So I wrote to Erica Slazak of What Life to Live, and she wrote me back from New York and said, "You're right.
Yeah.
Why don't we?" And so that got my interest in the entertainment industry in the 60s and 70s. But as you well know, it was worse then for inclusion. It wasn't without your impetus and Norman Lear's impetus that anybody with a you know a handicap or disability, we were on TV. And so I went into graduate school in politics to make a change. But now, since politics are so caustic, I love it here in the industry, making a difference using my policy and my business upbringing to make change, to open people's minds, open people's hearts to the possibilities. And what is it in for them?
Right. Well, that's that's where I really realized I had to do my advocacy work, because I saw the change that occurred in myself. And having Johnny included, he was the only student out of 2,700 students included in in our local high school. The transformation that occurred in the teachers, the students, the staff, it was profound. And not just at that moment in time. And it wasn't just, she's so cute, Johnny.
Right.
It was life-changing. And you talked to the people, and I had interviewed many of them along the way. And it is life-changing for them to have an opportunity. When we create a platform for inclusion to happen, for people with all abilities to be together,
right,
we are able to learn compassion and empathy, patience, tolerance, acceptance, kindness,
right,
gratitude, and unconditional love. And those are things. Those are things our world needs more of.
Yes.
What we each need more of. And that's what really, it doesn't matter what underrepresented community you're in. When inclusion is done in the right way and everyone is supported in the way that they need to be supported, this is what happens if we embrace these opportunities and we create these opportunities in order for it to happen.
Fern, I was going to ask you, I don't know if you have any children of your own, but one thing I wanted to use this platform for is to talk about the role of parents and a mother of a child with different abilities, special needs, whatever you want to refer to it. Because I remember my mother, who was a Greek, very smart in her own right, business woman, that when we were getting into the inclusion part of history for people with handicaps, she was the type of woman that would call the school board and their issues, she would say, I could give a flying F about what they say. I will get you the power wheelchair. I will transport you to school because you deserve, you have the ability and deserve an equal chance, just like your younger brother and sister. You know, and it's just like, why does society and the disability community look down on powerful parents that actually want to help move their child along to a better place? Because we all have mortality issues. We're all thinking about, oh, what's going to happen tomorrow? Well, it happened to me. My parents are dead. And thank God I have a brother and sister and their families, but they can only do so much. What about people that don't have siblings?
Difficult, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's
And why does our community, Fern, look down on people like Christina and my mother, late mother?
Well, it's hard to say, and what we've got now is a very different world, and this will be very controversial. What I'm going to say is you've got reverse discrimination now.
Yes.
Because if you go by the numbers, which I don't believe in doing, I believe you go based on excellence, etc. If you want to say, well, in Los Angeles, it's the Latino community that have many more numbers than the African American community.
Yes.
But right now, everything is only African American, and
Yes.
there's a lot of discrimination going on. So in reverse. So you have to, first of all, you're right. The parents, I mean, I have 2 sets of stepchildren, but nobody with any kind of physical thing. But
Right.
Jerry Jewell, all the people that I have met had extraordinary parents or a significant other in their
Right.
life, like Danny Deerdorf, who I understand
Right.
passed away not long ago. He got together with Joyce, his first wife, and after 3 days, she said, "Here are your clothes. I'll see you at breakfast." They were the most amazing couple, and they had the most incredibly gorgeous children.
Yeah.
And here's Danny, who's got a smile that lights up the world. But it's very difficult right now to figure out, who. I think you can't wait for the world you have to do what you need to do and make a difference in your small sphere, because in my opinion, the world is way crazier than when I was growing up. It's just,
It is.
yeah, so it's very difficult to say that you want parents to be like this or teachers to be like that.
Yes.
I feel the world is out of kilter. And so all we can do, and I've been thinking a lot about this during the last decade, because when my husband passed away, I
Yes.
buried myself in work, so I didn't have to think about anything.
Right,
And now for the more than last decade, that's all I've done is thinking and how could I be involved and what can I do and how can you change things? And
Right.
it's very difficult. So I think we need to draw small circles where we can make a difference, where we can find people who maybe don't think the way we think now, but are open to entertaining other approaches. And I think the world is very much in need of a different approach. It's out of control.
Yeah.
And it's, how do you do anything in a world like this? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't have any solutions. I don't have any answers. But I know what the questions need to be. And I don't know how we get there anymore. You know, it's we have to continue having the conversation and making opportunities be available.
Right.
And as you said, work on strengthening excellence, on strengthening, you know, what abilities, on focusing on that, and making, you know, and making people shine.
Developing the skills. And, you know, both Fern, you and Steven brought this up, and the representation, seeing yourself on screen, right? Seeing us as an audience member, seeing people with, you know, all range of abilities on screen is critically important. I mean, it really is. It is a way to educate. It is a way to educate in a very powerful means. The stories, I remember, Steven, you brought up Fern, you know, as watching different shows when you were younger. I remember watching the after school specials.
I know
that you did. I, you know, didn't realize that you did.
And one of the things that I don't understand, for instance, we did a short a film for the committee who got another grant. Called It's a New Day. We celebrated all these wonderful things that were coming up to help. And one of the things we had was a vertical lift wheelchair for a dentist or whatever. He was putting x-rays up to thing. And how come we don't see that in anything to dispel the fact that there are limitations that can't be dealt with? We have learned to deal with. And there's another thing. Not long ago, they showed that for the sight impaired, for the blind folks, there are some new technology, and God knows I'm not a friend of technology, who will give a narrative about not only here comes somebody, but here comes somebody, and they're tall, and they're this and they're that. There are all these incredible things which you could shine a light on them, saying nothing is impossible because you can't reach up there. Here's a wheelchair that will let you do that, or here's something else. You can't read, you can't do. You know, we did all of this in the 70s, and they have disappeared. I've never seen them in anything.
I know.
I remember working on the show Private Practice. This was, I think, around 2007, 2008. And there was he was one of the guest stars, one of the roles that he had. He was an actor who was a wheelchair user, and he had a chair that lifted him to stand up straight.
Yeah.
And I remember he was one of the doctors. I think he did. I forget.